Hey, I'm Jessica. I'm a mom of four. I am a Disney child turned Disney parent. And I heard you're going to Disney. And if you're going to Disney, you're in the right place.
Before we dive in, subscribe to Well Hello Magic, like this video, and don't forget you can always drop your questions below. Let's get ready to dive into some magic. Since it's been a while since I've done one of these planning videos, why don't we start with a little introduction? So I'm Jessica of Well Hello Magic. If you don't follow me on Instagram already, you should definitely do that since that is where I put my daily tips and tricks. I also have a blog that is full of information about Walt Disney World mainly, but I also cover things like Disneyland, Disneyland Paris, some Universal Studios, some travel outside of the Disney realm, and also Disney Cruise Line. So you can find a lot of information. A lot of it is based on traveling with kids. I have 4 kids from the ages of 4 to 13 right now, but they have all been going to Disney World since they were infants. In this first video, we are going to cover a lot of basics. So if you have never been to Walt Disney World before, or maybe you need a refresher, this is actually the perfect place to start. So by the end of this specific video, you should have an overview of Walt Disney World. We're going to be talking about the best times to travel, how to maximize your vacation, and what crowds look like in the different seasons of Walt Disney World. I'll touch a little bit on Disney travel agents and how they can be useful to you. And of course, I'll give my recommendations of how long to go to Walt Disney World depending on the time of year. So you'll have your basic information from this video. You definitely want to keep tuning in. Every week I will release a new video and it will be in the sphere of Disney. So it will either be a planning video. I have lots of room tours already on my channel. There is character dining experience, things like Bippity Boppity Boutique, and then you also will get some vlogs. Now, I'm not a traditional vlogger. I don't do it all the time, but every once in a while, if we're down there and we're having a wonderful time and I'm able to film, since I have 4 kids, you will get a vlog from me and I'll take you along on that journey. So before we get started, I want to set some realistic expectations here. If you've been to Walt Disney World before, you probably have an idea of the things that I'm going to talk about. One of the main things I have in my complete planning guide that is free to you on my website is I don't want you to overdo this trip. And what I mean is don't overplan. If you overplan a Walt Disney World vacation, you are setting yourself up for failure, and I'm just going to be honest about that. Walt Disney World is the size of San Francisco and covers 43,000 square miles. If you don't know what that is, think twice the size of Manhattan if you've never been out to the West Coast. It's that big. It consists of 4 theme parks. You have Disney's Animal Kingdom theme park, Magic Kingdom Park, EPCOT, and Disney's Hollywood Studios. Along with that, there are 2 water parks, Typhoon Lagoon and Blizzard Beach. In 2025, they are still alternating between which one is open. Right now, while I'm making this video, Blizzard Beach is open, but once the summer season comes around, you'll see the switch happen and Typhoon Lagoon will open and Blizzard Beach will go into refurbishment. Then there is Disney Springs, which is their entertainment hub that has over 99 shops, 60 different restaurants, and 20 different entertainment venues. So it's a really fun place to go, especially on arrival day instead of heading to the park. And it starts to give you that little hint of Disney magic. On top of everything I just told you, Disney also has 3 PGA grade golf courses, 2 mini golf courses that we include in almost every single trip that we go. Then they have over 26 Disney Resort Collection hotels to choose from. So you get it. It's a really big place. So there is no way in one trip you are going to do or see it all. So my goal is to help you pinpoint the specific things that your family is interested in already with Disney. If you're a Star Wars family, I'm going to help you build this trip that is around Star Wars. Yes, you'll always do the highlights and we'll make sure that you get the things that make you feel like you went to Walt Disney World Resort.
But the goal is to build a magical trip around the things that you already love. So that way you come back feeling like you had an amazing trip and you just didn't do what your neighbor said to do because they've been there one time in the last 30 years and told you that you need to get on a ride that you look back and go, why did I get on that ride? That's the whole point. Since I go about 3 to 6 times a year, last year I went 8 times, I have a pulse on what's going on in Walt Disney World. So I'm going to help you decide what is going to be the best thing for your family to do. So I want to set that base of realistic expectations. You're not going to do it all, but even if you don't do it all, you're going to have an amazing vacation. First, if you're heading to Walt Disney World in 2025, there are some important things you need to know about the parks. There's going to be a lot of construction walls up, and some of the rides that are fan favorites are currently closed. So I think it's important to go through park by park so that you are aware of what is going on in each park, and that will help you decide what time is best for your family to go. The list I'm about to give you is a little extensive, but don't worry, you don't need to take all of these notes. On my blog, www.wellhellomagic.com, I have a blog post that is called A Complete Guide to Disney Planning. In that blog, I list all the highlights for the year, and I update that as refurbishments are happening and rides close down. So don't feel like if you're not recording every single thing that I'm telling you right now, you're going to miss out on that. You have a copy of that on the blog post. I'll also link it down in the show notes. The first thing you should note there is that the Tree of Life is getting a new show. This won't be open until winter 2025, but they haven't said when they're going to shut down It's a Bug's Life. I'm actually a little happy that your child will probably skip out on that childhood trauma, but we're really excited about the Zootopia show. Dino Land USA is being transformed into the Tropical Americas, and the first closure happened in January 12th of 2025. They've closed down the fossil fuel games in Chester and Hester's Dinorama. You can still catch rides like dinosaurs, and Restaurantosaurus is still open, but those will close later in 2025 or early 2026 to make way for the new Indiana Jones attraction. At EPCOT, Test Track should be reopened in summer of 2025. There is a new lounge coming to guests. Think August Cantina of Hollywood Studios, and that you'll be able to watch the nighttime spectaculars from there as well. That says summer of 2025. Over at Magic Kingdom, they will be getting a new tavern as well. It's a Pirates of the Caribbean themed, and that's supposed to open late summer of 2025. They will also be getting a new nighttime electrical parade called Disney Starlight, which will open summer of 2025 and feature characters from Peter Pan, Frozen, and Encanto. It's probably going to be a pretty amazing show. Then there's some major expansions that are going on at Magic Kingdom. There is a new Villains Land coming, which is the largest expansion to Magic Kingdom that has ever happened. Now, Big Thunder Mountain is closed down for over a year, and that probably has a little bit to do with this expansion. So if you didn't get a chance to ride it in 2025, you're going to have to wait till 2026. We also know that there is a Cars Land expansion that will be coming, so you better get on the Liberty Bell while you can, and they will be shutting that down in sometime in 2025 to start that expansion. Now, Hollywood Studios is getting some of the real fun, and it's overdue. Hollywood Studios was my favorite park at one time as a child, and it has kind of slid down the ranks. But with these new additions of Monsters Inc. Land, which closures should be coming sometime in 2025. We don't have a date yet. That will shut down Grand Avenue, which is where Muppets in 3D is currently located. We don't have to worry though, because Rock and Roller Coaster is getting a Muppets re-theme, but they have not listed those dates yet. The Little Mermaid show will be reopening this summer, so we're excited about that, and it'll feature 2 new songs, and also we'll be getting a new villains show that is over where the Cars show used to be, called Disney Villains Show and Fairly Ever After, which will also open this summer. So I'm going to give you a quick rundown of the 4 main parks at Walt Disney World that you may want to visit during your vacation. And we are going to start with the most iconic and the opening day park, October 1st, 1971, Magic Kingdom Park. Magic Kingdom Park is approximately 107 acres and is divided into 6 different theme lands. You have Main Street USA, Adventureland, Frontierland, Liberty Square, Fantasyland, and Tomorrowland. And each land is intricately themed and to transport the guests to the different times and places, creating a cohesive story throughout the park. This is the most iconic park as it boasts Cinderella Castle, which stands at 189 feet tall. So now we're headed to the next part, which is known as EPCOT, which stands for the Environmental Prototype Community of Tomorrow. Now, this is my family's favorite park. Well, second favorite only to one child. But this park is full of so much, and this is probably the second most family-friendly park of all the parks. So let me give you some background on EPCOT. EPCOT is broken into 4 different neighborhoods: World Showcase, World Nature, World Discovery, and World Celebration. Now, this has changed over the years. It originally opened October 1st of 1981, and this has been my favorite park since I was a child. My dad actually sold insurance for MetLife, and MetLife had a pavilion there, and they had a ride called the Body Wars. If you are a Disney goer from the 90s, you know what the Body Wars is. So I've always had a special love for EPCOT. Now, EPCOT is one of those parks where you really do have to narrow your focus and decide what's going to be most important for your family. When we do the EPCOT video, I will show you different ways of how to enjoy all the different pieces. But they have thrill rides like Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, which is hands down the best ride at Walt Disney World. But then there's a lot of rides for little kids. And again, it's another one of those parks where most of the rides do not have a height requirement, so you can go on as a family. It also is the place outside of Magic Kingdom to meet the most characters. You have a princess dining experience here, and at all times in the park, you have at least 6 princesses that are doing meet and greets. Outside of princesses, you do have other specialty characters like Figment, which you can only find at EPCOT. So there's a lot to do here. There's also a lot of kids activity like the World Passport or KidCot, which is an activity station in all the different countries. I'm sure everyone, if you've heard of EPCOT before, you hear the World Showcase. The World Showcase is filled of 11 different countries, and there are 4 festivals each year that highlight different foods from around the world. The festivals are iconic and they are a lot of fun. So if you wanted to go during a specific festival, it'd be important to know that window. The 4 festivals that EPCOT has are Festival of the Arts, which is usually at the beginning of the year. Then there's Flower and Garden Festival, which is usually in the springtime. Now, last year, EPCOT did not have a festival during the summer, which is what EPCOT used to do in pre-COVID times. I don't know for sure if they have announced that yet for this summer, but I'm assuming that they're going to do the same thing where there's not a festival during the summer and it's just EPCOT in what I like to call ordinary time. Now, there's still food and different things. It's just not surrounded around a festival. Then you have the Food and Wine Festival, which is probably the most well-known festival. And then there's Festival of the Holidays, which is my favorite because who doesn't like a festival that is based around sweets and chocolates and cookies? So depending on the time of year, you definitely will probably hit one of those festivals, and those add just a little bit more of an experience to your EPCOT day. Now, EPCOT again is one of those parks where you could go multiple days, but if you wanted a highlight and you only had one day, you would have a pretty well-rounded day. Also, right now, the show that they have is called Luminous, and it is an amazing 360 World Showcase show. I've actually seen every progression of EPCOT's show, and this one feels a lot like EPCOT. It's probably my second favorite of all the shows that have been there, and my husband says that is one that you should not miss. The next park we're hopping over to is Disney's Hollywood Studios. This was also known as MGM at one point, so for all of you that have been before and you still are calling it MGM Studios, it is now Disney's Hollywood Studios. Disney's Hollywood Studios is probably the most tricky park, especially if you have young ones in your party like I do. Most of the rides here have height requirements. There's only 2 rides here without height requirements, but Hollywood Studios
Studios offers some of the most unique experiences with the Little Mermaid show coming back, the Disney Junior Play area. They have a character breakfast that's called Disney Junior Play and Dine. It also gives the little ones something that none of the parks have to offer. Now, when the new Monsters Inc. land comes out, a lot of this will change, and I do think a bit more family friendly. But if you want immersion, Disney's Hollywood Studios is where you're going to go for that. For any Star Wars fans, you cannot come to Walt Disney World without going to Galaxy's Edge. You have the ride Rise of the Resistance, which is also an 18-minute experience that you don't want to skip. I highly recommend using the skip the line service for that, which we'll talk about in another video, but make sure you pay attention that I am saying now, skip the line service for Rise of the Resistance. You also get to fly the Millennium Falcon there, and if you need a libation, Oga's Cantina is also available at Disney's Hollywood Studios and has hours that extend beyond the parks for those adults who would like to come back and grab a drink. Then you also have Toy Story Land, which is super immersive and has the family favorite Toy Story Mania there as well. And also Slinky Dog Dash, which is the next step roller coaster for those big kids that are ready to try something that's not quite Tron or Guardians, but they are ready for the next level of roller coasters, and it's super fun. Then there's Sunset Boulevard there, where you can ride the iconic Tower of Terror, which is also Disney's Hollywood Studios icon at that park. There's a lot to do for families. Again, it's going to be about prioritizing and executing a plan that works for your group specifically, but you can have a full day at Disney's Hollywood Studios. Now we head to the most underrated park and my twin daughter's favorite park, Disney's Animal Kingdom theme park, which they have the icon of the Tree of Life. They have Kilimanjaro Safari, where sometimes you can catch a lion roar. They have amazing stage shows between Festival of the Lion King and Finding Nemo, The Big Blue and Beyond. And they are going through a large makeover as well as they add the Tropical Americas, which hopefully will be open in a couple of years. Animal Kingdom is also the largest theme park, spanning over 500 acres, largely due to the safari there. They also have an immersive land in Pandora where you can catch a ride on a Banshee if you ride Flight of Passage, and you can also go down the Navi River, another ride that you need to use the Skip the Line pass. So keep that as a note for yourself. We love Animal Kingdom. It is the only park that we don't take a midday break because it's open pretty early and it also closes the earliest. You can have a full day there, family fun. You can become a wilderness explorer, which is an activity where kids can catch badges all over the park by learning some information too about wildlife and conservation. It is a full day family fun. Do not skip this one. It gets a bad rap that it's a zoo, but honestly, I think it's one of those parks that has a lot of hidden gems. And if you don't take the time to find the hidden gems, you don't know what you're actually missing. Sure, you check out that Animal Kingdom video when it releases so I can take you through a full day of everything you can do at Disney's Animal Kingdom theme park. So let me just briefly cover the other things that I spoke about in the beginning of the video when I was covering the mass of Walt Disney World. So you do have two water parks, Blizzard Beach and Typhoon Lagoon, and they both offer something totally different. When in 2025, with your Disney Resort package, you now get a free day at the water park the first day you arrive. So if you're there if you get to your resort early enough, you can drop off your bags with Bell Services and head to the water park. Now they do close early. They typically close around 6 o'clock. You have to check the times just in case. If you were going in January, some of the days are too cold for the park to open. If that happens, you will get a notification on My Disney Experience and you'll have 3 days to use that water park pass, because I can't remember off the top of my head what the degree has to be, but we've been there in January where sometimes it wasn't warm enough and they did have to close the park that day. So just know you'll be able to use that on a different day and you'll get an alert. Blizzard Beach features a frozen area for the young kids that is super cute. And if for your intermediate swimmers, there is a great play area that has obstacle courses. It also has one of the largest water slides that you can go down. So it's called Summit Plummet, I believe.
But there's so much to do at the water parks and lots of good food as well. Typhoon Lagoon is our summer place. If we go during the summer, we go to Typhoon Lagoon at least twice. It has a wave pool that will knock you off your feet, and I'm not kidding. You actually will get knocked off your feet and need to be prepared. I do have a cheat for the littles. There's a little corner that they can go in so they can experience the waves, but I do not recommend having little kids in the main area of that wave pool, and lifeguards will tell you to make sure that you're holding on to them. Now, if you're like my older kids that like to swim into the wave and have it knock you back, have at it. Typhoon Lagoon is a full day of fun, and they have so many good treats there, and we always make sure to stop by during the summer. They also have an event called H2O Glow, which is an after hours event that happens there that sometimes you can catch during the summer if you're there, and add that to your trip. There's also 2 mini golf courses that are a fun addition to your trip. You have Summer Winter Wonderland, which is close to Blizzard Beach, and then you have Fantasia Gardens, which is over in the EPCOT area right across from the Swan Reserve Hotel. Both of them are so much fun. They have fairways and they have like the mini golf putt-putt area. We've done both. The fairways are a little bit tricky, especially if you have younger kids, and some frustration may be added. The putt-putt side is really fun for both of the courses. So that's definitely something if you have a longer trip that you can go and do. If you book a Disney vacation package, you typically have a free round of mini golf in that package that you can use. Otherwise, I think it's about $12 a person, but it's definitely worth it for a rest day with your family. Then, of course, we have Disney Springs, which I always suggest to be your arrival day destination. If you're someone who gets there and is like, I want us to do something, head to Disney Springs. You can have a lot of fun there. There's lots of shopping. It puts you in the Disney magic. They even sell the Disney balloons there that I tell you to get on the first day. They have different performances in the evening. Hopefully during the summer, they bring back their drone show that is called Dreams That Soar that happens nightly, and it was amazing. So I'm crossing my fingers that they bring back that show. But Disney Springs is a way to start getting a touch of magic without putting yourself in the park or setting yourself up for disappointment. Travel days are always wonky, so you never know if it's going to go perfectly or if your flight will be delayed, or maybe there was a delay when you're driving in. So Disney Springs is that perfect balance of being able to get food, maybe do a little shopping, and then here's some entertainment if you go in the evening. Like I said, there's over 60 different restaurants to eat. You can use your Disney gift cards there. You do get your discounts if you're an annual pass holder or a Disney Vacation Club member all over Disney Springs. So don't forget to let them know that you have one of those discounts. And it's just a fun way to kick off the trip. If you need restaurant recommendations, I have a list on my website. We do try to eat our way through Disney, and we've eaten our way through a lot of Disney Springs. So let's dive into the Disney Resort Collection. Now, I'm going to do an overview, not a full review of everything. I'm going to give you the basics you need to know, and then we will dive into this later in other videos. So if you want to stay on Disney property, which I highly recommend for Walt Disney World, this is not the same if you've been to Disneyland before. Disneyland was built really in a suburb, and then the town was built around it. Walt Disney World was built as a resort destination. So you have over 26 Disney Resort Collection hotels. Now, in those Disney resorts and hotels, they consist of Disney Vacation Club Villas, which is a timeshare program through Disney. We are actually members of that program and have 2 resorts that we have purchased into. And then you have the traditional resorts. These resorts are broken down into 3 different categories. You have your value resort, which is going to be your most budget friendly, and we love the value resorts. They have larger than life Disney theming. They're great, especially if you have young kids, because as soon as you pull up to the resort, you feel like, oh my gosh, this is Disney. Then you have your moderate resorts. There are not very many of these. There's only about 3 of these resorts. One of the resorts has 2 different sides. These resorts have a little less subtle Disney theming, but they're great. The price point is great, and they give you a few more options when it comes to being able to eat at different locations. Then you have your deluxe resorts, which make up most of the Disney Resort Collection Hotel. Now, these are also going to have subtle Disney theming that's throughout the entire place. You have the most options and amenities at these resorts. This is also where Disney Vacation Club comes in because their villas are housed at these deluxe resorts. They are awesome and the amenities are awesome. And a lot of times they're going to be the resorts that are closer to the park. But of course, that comes with a higher price point. You also are going to have the most transportation options at these deluxe resorts. So if that's in the budget, it's a great splurge, but we have just as good of a time when we stay at the value resorts. So don't let the value moderate deluxe trip you up. You really want to find a resort that is going to be the best fit for your family and your budget. I actually have a quiz on my website. If you join my newsletter, it's for free and it helps you decide what resort you should stay at per trip. So the questionnaire is going to give you questions and you base it solely on this specific trip you're going on, and that will help you either confirm or direct you in the right direction of what category you should be looking at for your stay. And then for my military families, we have our own resort too, called Shades of Green, which is an AFRC resort, and it's nestled close to the Polynesian, and it is considered a deluxe resort on Disney property. So that's an option for us, and you know those resorts are always done by rank, so that might be a cheaper option that gives you the same benefits as staying on property, and you're close to the Magic Kingdom, and so definitely look into that if you are a military family. It also has a ticket office and a commissary on property. Then you obviously have your off-property resorts. Now, if you stay in the Bonnet Creek area, they actually get early entry. There's a few resorts. It's listed on the Disney website. I also have it on my website. So you can look at those resorts, and they have Wyndhams, Marriotts, Hiltons, a variety of hotels that stand there. Then there's this other thing called Good Neighbor Hotels, which I think sometimes gets confused with the Bonnet Creek Good Neighbor Hotels. Good Neighbor Hotels are just hotels that Disney has designated, that they have a standard that Disney approves, and they also sometimes provide transportation to and from the parks. A lot of times they're taking you to the Ticket and Transportation Center, which is a hub to get you to EPCOT and Magic Kingdom. The times are very infrequent. We rarely stay off-site anymore, and Good Neighbor Hotels, yes, they're a wonderful option and sometimes will provide a cheaper option, but me personally, I would rather stay at a value resort, which is typically the same price, than stay off-site at a Good Neighbor Hotel unless the trip is not based around Disney and we're just going to Disney for one day. Then you have your mega resorts like Evermore or Margaritaville, which are always an option to stay on, and then Airbnbs and VRBOs are plenty in Orlando, Florida. So the way that I determine when we're going on vacation is in multiple factors. I look at the kids' schedule. As my kids' schedules get fuller and they get older, it's harder to pull them out of school. When they were all in elementary school, I never hesitated to take them out for vacation. We have vacation forms that we need to fill out. They usually ask for an educational component. I always say we are going to study conservation and wildlife at Disney's Animal Kingdom. That is educational. They learn more probably there than they do anywhere else. So in elementary school, I had no issues doing this. As they've gotten older and in the later years of elementary school, I only have one preschooler now, and I have to think about their school schedule. So a lot of times my trips are going to be during their breaks, which I know are going to be higher crowd times. Or I try to work in federal holidays to extend my PTO so that way I'm not missing work. So there's a lot of ways that you can work this. I actually have a blog that breaks down how to maximize your 2025 with PTO and vacation days if you need help with that. But if you're going through school schedules and that's what you're staying by, sometimes that's what we're limited to, which makes us go during the summer a lot. The way that you can figure out how busy it's going to be is through these crowd calendars. There are 3 that I recommend. The first one is going to be from Undercover Tourist. It's also one of the discount ticket sites that I have trusted for over a decade, and they have probably one of the best crowd calendars you've ever had. Not only does it break down all of Orlando, it will actually give you suggestions of what park is the better park to go to that day, and theirs is based on historical data of selling tickets. Since they are the largest retailer of tickets outside of Walt Disney World, they have that information from the last 20 years and can tell you when tickets are selling more, which is going to be very important. The second one is WDW Prep School. I love this crowd calendar because it breaks down what events are actually happening. If there's a cheerleading event, you probably don't want to stay at an all-star resort because they practice outside at all hours in the morning. So that's why it's important to know when there's soccer tournaments, football tournaments, cheer, dance events, and also it lets you know when all the festivals are starting and any fun things that are coming to Walt Disney World. It is wonderful. My last crowd calendar, and it's a little bit trickier to use, is from Thrill Data. Thrill Data is a site that us Disney nerds love following because it actually captures the wait times of all of the rides every day. So their crowds are based on who is actually in the parks waiting in line to get on these different rides. So you have the crowd calendar based on ticket sales, the one that goes over the event, and then now who is in the park on the rides. And the combination of all 3 of those can give you an idea of what's going to be happening during the time you're going to be at the park. If you're someone who is crowd averse, now when we say crowds, we mean there's still going to be people in the park. Disney wouldn't operate if no one was there, but it's just less crowded. You can walk around. There's not a sea. I call it the sea of heads whenever it's Christmas time and there's just all these heads walking because it's so crowded. Usually that month is September. It has the lowest crowds. Everyone's gone back to school. It's also the rainiest month in Walt Disney World, which leads me to checking the weather. You've got to know the seasons at Walt Disney World. You need to know rainy season starts from May, around May 15th, the middle of the month, to October 15th. The highest time for hurricanes is usually in September. However, the last 2 hurricanes have happened in October and November that have shut down the park. So you just need to be cognizant of that because it will change the way that you pack. Now we go during the summer too, where it rains every single day. We call it the midday thunderstorm. It's very rare that it rains the entire day, and we usually plan breaks around the rain. So when people see in the forecast that there is rain every day, sometimes they get upset, but that's normal. It's Florida, and Disney World was built in a swamp. So you have to know what you're going to be up against, so that way you can have a magical vacation. But like I said, there is no wrong time to go to Disney. It's just about how you plan and execute your time there. But the more knowledge you have of what to expect, the better time you're going to have as a family. So the final thing we're talking about in this video is going to be the length of your stay. So depending on what you're wanting out of your trip. So I have different categories that I put people in. We have the rite of passage trip, right? It's the, I got to get the kids to Disney. This is a rite of passage type thing. You at least go once when they're kids. That is usually a bucket list trip. Those are the trips you hear about that cost a lot more, mainly because people really don't know what they're doing and they just go ahead and book the trip because they think they're only going to go once. So those are my rite of passage people. Then you have the people who go every year, or every 2 years. It's part of their fabric, but maybe not the whole part. Then you have the once a year people. And then you have the Disney crazies that are like me, who go multiple times a year, go for specific events, and then become Disney Vacation Club. I always warn people, if you start following me and you do Disney the way that works for your family and you learn how to do that through me, you may end up on the far end of the spectrum where you become a Disney Vacation Club member or a travel agent, because you won't help but fall in love with Disney if you change the way that you do it. If you are going for a rite of passage trip, those are typically longer trips. You're going to want to go to all the parks. You're going to want to have a rest day, at least one rest day in there. You may want to go to a park twice. So you're going to have a longer stay. If you're a yearly goer, you also may choose to stay for a longer time. Those two categories, is going to be really important to look at those crowd counters so you know what you're up against. If you go more frequently, you may think a 4-day trip is enough, or if you're deciding you only want to go to 2 parks, 4 days may be enough. And then crazies, we go for a long time or we go for the weekend. My recommendation, if you are doing a bucket list trip, if it is a rite of passage trip, you don't plan on ever going again, you want to stay in that 7 to 10 day window, because you need an arrival day and you need a departure day on the bookends of your trip. So if you're there for 7 days, you really only have those 5 days in between. If you're there for 10 days, now you're giving yourself like 8 full days to experience Walt Disney World. And those are like the bucket list, we're never going again trips. If you are testing it out and you're just like, we want to do 1 or 2 parks, we just want to like dip our toes in, a 4-day trip is perfectly fine. 2 days at the park, a day of rest, you come in and you leave. That's a perfect trip. If you're doing it by season, I always stay a lot longer during the summer because we cannot tolerate the parks all day. We typically take a break from about 12 o'clock to 4:30 during the summer, because that is the highest heat of the day, or the hottest heat of the day. And I just don't want the kids to be out in it. I don't want my kid to burn or my husband to burn. And it just is uncomfortable sometimes. And the rain usually happens then. So we usually stay longer. We'll have like a 10-day stay so we can really enjoy Disney. Now, we just went to Walt Disney World in December. One of our trips was a 5-night and one was a 4-night. And that was great. Even with the crowds, we used different strategies to be able to skip the lines. We went to after hours parties and events that helped us get things done that we want to do at the park. And those trips were shorter because the weather is better, because you feel more inclined to stay at the park a little bit longer. Hours are different during the winter months. And so we had a great time and the trips were shorter. Same thing in January. January is like the coldest month of the year. So you could do a shorter trip because you'll be able to tolerate the weather a little bit longer. And you can still have that midday break and have a good time. So just if it's cooler there, you could probably have a shorter trip. Once you hit about May to that October window, it starts to heat up. It's a little bit warmer. You may want a longer trip. If you're having a rite of passage trip, remember that's going to be a little bit longer if you want to hit all 4 parks and have a rest day. Then the last question is, do you need a travel agent? I know a lot of wonderful travel agents. A lot of travel agents follow me, and they are there to help you book your trip. If you feel so overwhelmed even listening to this first overview of a video, a travel agent might be right for you. I have recommended travel agents that I like, and I don't make a commission off any. And I do that intentionally because I want to make sure that if I don't like a travel agent style, I can be like, yeah, I'm not recommending you anymore. So I do have my top travel agents. I also provide a free list of travel agents that give a little bio of themselves if you join my newsletter that goes out once a month. And in those bios, you can contact them and find one that fits for you. If you ever feel pressured by a travel agent or you're not getting the experience you want out of one, you can always decide that, okay, maybe this agent is not right for me. But I do have a blog that's linked below in the show notes that goes over what you should ask a travel agent and what you actually should expect. Travel agents, for the most part, are completely free. The reason why is when you book a trip through Disney yourself, you will get this blue envelope, and it comes from the Walt Disney World Travel Company. Disney has already factored in a commission of sales for everything that they book. So if a Disney authorized travel agent books you, they get that commission. So it just is a different place that the commission is going to. That's why they are free. Now, me personally, if it goes beyond booking and you're wanting me to actually plan out your specific days and tell you exactly what to do each day, I would charge you a fee. So if a travel agent gives you the scope of work that they're going to do, but you're like, no, I want you to go further. I need an itinerary for the days, and there's a small fee for that. That's not absurd in my opinion. But again, I give you a list of questions to ask your travel agent in this blog. So if you want a Disney travel agent, that does not mean you lose control of your trip.
Actually, a Disney travel agent is just there to help you book things. You still need to plan your trip, so you still have full control. So these videos will also help you plan that information. So that is a wrap for this first planning video. Your Disney 101 is done. So after this video, you should know all the different areas of Walt Disney World Resort. You should understand that there are 3 categories of properties that are on Disney property and all the different options outside of Disney property. You should be able to find when there are high crowd times and low crowd times and start to brainstorm what time of the year you want to go and what that's going to look like weather-wise and crowd-wise. And then you have a resource to figure out if you need a Disney travel agent. This is just the beginning, and you have got this, especially if you are a first timer. If you have any questions, put them below. Definitely be back every week because I will be releasing these planning videos every single week. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, and I am so happy that you're here. I hope you have a magical rest of your day and dive into any other videos on my channel. Don't forget to give this a like. Have a great day.